Okay, so I reviewed the video that I previously made, and I realized I need to just make a small clarification. When I was giving the example of the idea that if at times I'm thinking of my family, that may cause me to be sad, what I meant by that was it wouldn't always make me feel sad to think about them and that I miss them, but sometimes it does. And sometimes that sadness can be very overwhelming. So at times when it's very overwhelming and very sad, it would be more difficult to think about them even in a positive way. Like I was giving an example, like, oh, I'm so happy when I get to talk to them on the phone, or when I get to email with them, text or whatever. If I'm in a really sad space, thinking about even that might not really make me feel better. It might actually make me feel worse. But other times, when I'm in a calmer space about it, then thinking of those things actually uplifts my mood about the situation. And so just to make it a little bit more clear, if I'm in a space where I can think about the interactions I am able to have with my family and be happy and feel uplifted from those thoughts, then that's good. Then I'm on the right track for not only my emotional state, my calmness versus stress, but also in what I'm going to be creating as my experience in the future. And I'll explain more details about all this as we progress. If I'm in an upset space and thinking about my family, even at that level, to where, let's say I'm trying to think, oh, I enjoy emailing with them. If that's making me sad right then, because my state is such that I can't help but feel sad, then I need to get off the subject altogether. And I need to distract myself. And in the previous video I was mentioning a breeze happened to come in the window right then. My cat happened to walk by. I noticed I was sitting on the chair. It can be anything that's around you, anything that's supporting you, a nice meal that you recently had or that you're going to have. Anything simple that you can feel grateful for will begin to start to uplift your emotional state. So, as I mentioned in my description, I'm making this video series for a person that's in my life that I care about very much, who has been struggling with some stress issues, and at a point though when I was making the video I realized it could help other people. The person I made it for responded back in an email and is actually having difficulty noticing what the bodily sensations are. So what I'm instructing or advising is, well, take some time and just try to notice. You know, just sit with it and notice. When you notice that you're stressed, try to think back. What happened? How did you get there? How did you feel before you got stressed? How did you feel in your body? Try to start to notice how you feel in your body afterwards. What is stress to you? What does stress feel like to you? Is it just a mental state and you start kind of freaking out and getting unnerved and it keeps escalating? The escalation comes from the escalation of thoughts. If you look back at the escalation, you'll notice that the thoughts started somewhere. They went negative somewhere along the way, and usually if the person stays in the negative train of thought, they'll continue to get more and more and more negative, and the emotions will continue to get worse and worse. The opposite can also be done by purposefully replacing the disturbing thoughts, the worrisome thoughts, the concerned thoughts for any thoughts that make you feel better in any kind of a way. If you stick with thinking of those things purposefully, which does take a little effort at first, but if you stick with it, it will become the default setting. And we'll explain more about why that even happens at a later time. So if you will make the effort to think about anything that makes you feel better, you could look outside and notice the trees, or look at your pets. Realize how lucky most of us are that we have things to eat and shelter and clothing. Many people in the world don't even have this, and if you're watching this on a computer, you probably do, and most of us take it for granted. We don't really think about it that much, but we really can milk how grateful we really actually feel for things that we've just not even really thought that much about. I kind of hate to use the word take it for granted, but we kind of do, in the sense that we have a lot of wonderful things that support us and that entertain us, And we're so used to it, we just don't think much about it. But we can really use those things and start looking around at all of those things, because they're general things. Those things are general and they won't usually evoke a negative emotion. That's why it's good to use them. And we can look at them and say, wow, I'm really grateful that I have this chair to sit on right now, and I'm really grateful I have these walls and this roof to protect me from the elements, and the clothing that I have to wear, and the people that love me and care for me and keep me company, interact with me, that I have fun with, the books I might read, the TV I might watch, the hobbies that I have, the food that I eat that sustains me, the beautiful blue sky, a butterfly that flies by, anything. Just all these simple things that when we're caught up in our head and the spirals just run with the thoughts, we become kind of oblivious to them and we're not fully experiencing them. But when we start turning our attention to them, we experience them more fully. At first, purposefully thinking about things like I'm mentioning, sometimes can be feel a little dragging, which could be interpreted as boring. And the reason for that is that it's a calmer, slower activity than the fast pace that the rambling thoughts usually take place. And usually those rambling thoughts at the fast pace make us kind of want to operate on a faster mode. It makes us feel kind of agitated. So at first, sometimes for some people, beginning to just kind of stop and slow down and start taking note about more of the things that are around us and noticing them with appreciation, and just thinking briefly about how they serve us, and just really becoming present to how wonderful that is and how grateful we feel for that. At first can sometimes seem a little boring, but I promise, and I know this for experience, I had the same experience when I first started doing this. I didn't quite get it, and I was trying to do it. I think I can explain it a little better than the explanation I got, so I'm hoping I can help make it a little bit easier for people. If anyone wants to give feedback, that's cool. But give it a sincere try before you say something negative. If you don't like how it sounds and you don't bother to try it, then please don't say something negative, because then you don't even really know what you're talking about, and it can take more than one attempt or 5 seconds to get this. It takes a little practice and perseverance and repetition. And what I started to notice for myself was that after a few times, it really didn't take that long, it didn't take that much effort, it didn't take that many times of effort, I began to notice that there was actually kind of something thrilling, in a subtle way. It's hard to explain. Almost exciting, exhilarating, joyful, about really just becoming present to some of the wonderful aspects that are in some of these simplistic things that we just blur by in a day. Most of us, as we're eating, we're thinking about so many other things that we're only tasting a fraction of what the flavor of the food is really like. When I first started working with this, I even started becoming present to washing the dishes. And I don't have a dishwasher. I don't personally care for dishwashers. I think they're really smelly. And by the time you really rinse all the dishes good enough anyway for the dishwasher to clean them, and you stack them in there, seriously, you could have just put them in a dish strainer and been done, and then let them dry and then put them away. So I personally find there's less steps to hand washing and putting in a drainer, plus you don't have the disgusting smell. But that's just me. So I started to notice, as I was doing the dishes, the warm water running over my hands. And in the past, I would be scrambling so fast in my head that I just didn't like doing the dishes. I just couldn't wait to get through it, really. But when I slowed down and became just more present, kept the thoughts at bay, and just was present to the water flowing over my hands and what the warmth of it felt like, what the wetness of it felt like, and how good that felt, I actually experienced a wonderful quality within just doing the dishes, and I actually began to really start to calm down at that point. And when I really started working with that exercise, I had been going through something incredibly stressful. Like, I mean, so stressful, it was horrible. Horribly, horribly bad. I just didn't know what was going to happen in my life, my well-being, my welfare. I don't want to get into details, but it was really, really bad, really scary. And it was so awful that I felt like I had to grasp hold and start doing these little, I'll call them exercises for lack of a better word, but it's just a way of being. It's a way of learning to live and to cultivate the mind. And if one will take the time to do it with just a little repetition and a little focus and effort, it starts to pay off pretty quickly. You'll be able to tell a difference pretty fast, and that will encourage you, it did for me, to keep going. And it builds. As you keep going, it builds and accumulates, so it gets stronger and stronger each time you do it. And I would recommend at least once or twice a day, and then maybe put little post-it notes around so you remind yourself to just stop and take notice, like, what's going on around me, what can I be grateful for, becoming more present and more involved in what you're actually doing, instead of absent-mindedly eating or going through the motions of something and not fully experiencing that in life. This not only helps to calm one down significantly, and like I said, it compounds and grows, but it also leads to increased happiness, and this also leads to actual better life experiences. No joke, I swear. It's true. I've lived it both ways, and I will explain more about this as we go along. So your task for now is to, continue to try to identify what your body feels like when you're feeling bad, any kind of bad, stressed, sad, unhappy, scared, whatever, so that you can use that as an indicator, but you also just learn to become more present to what's going on in your mind. And that takes a little bit more focus of awareness than if you can learn to feel it in your emotions, if you can, whatever that is for you. I said on my last video, for me it's my stomach tying up in a knot. For someone else, his chest gets tight and he can even have trouble breathing. What is it for you? And if it's not a physical sensation, what happens when you say you're stressed? What happens within you that lets you know that? Because there's something that lets you know that, and that can be your little alarm system if you become aware of it, or once you become aware of it. And every time you notice either your emotions or your thoughts were in a not so great place, then stop it right there. Kick it out by putting in something positive. And the easiest way, especially if you're in a really negative state, the easiest way is to just turn your attention to something in nature, or something simple, something that you have that supports you and that you can be grateful for, or that you can feel appreciation for, without having to really try to flip your thoughts on a subject that's causing you stress. Because when you're greatly stressed on a particular subject, it's very, very difficult to flip your thoughts on that subject right then, but you can gradually shift your way by turning your attention first to really simple things like the sky, the trees, the sunshine, the rain, the chair that you're sitting on, the table that you can put your food on and that serves you, your computer, anything that serves you. It's an easy way to start to flip your thoughts and your emotions in a few seconds. And keep coming back, because I'm going to elaborate on this further.